Wednesday, April 17th. The time is 10:05. I'll call to order the meeting of the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. Mr. Adams, will you call the roll, please?
Chair Shapiro.
Here.
Commissioner Bailey.
Here.
Commissioner Dorner.
Here.
Commissioner Giraldo.
Yes,
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning. Commissioner Washington.
Here.
Vice Chair Harris.
Present.
Commissioner Bartley.
Present.
Commissioner Hedrick.
Here.
Commissioner Linden.
Here.
Commissioner Pedawin is absent. That's 9-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on with the agenda, under one motion, if we could have a motion to approve both the commission agenda and the commission minutes from March 20, 2024.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Seconded.
We've got a motion and a second. Discussion.
Sorry, who was the second?
The motion was Commissioner Giraldo. The second was, I'm not sure.
Hedrick.
Thank you.
Commissioner
Hedrick.
No discussion. Mr. Adams, if you could call the roll, please.
Chair Shapiro.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Bailey.
But I.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Washington.
Vote aye.
Vice Chair Harris.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Bartlett. Circling back around. Moving along. Commissioner Hedrick.
Aye.
Commissioner Linden.
Aye.
Second call for Bartlett.
Going once, going twice.
That is 8 absent. 8 in favor, 1 absent, 1 non-vote.
Thank you. Under general announcements, just a couple things I want to highlight. One is to remind folks, this is item 3E, that financial disclosure statements are due April 30th. This is for commissioners and other staff. You know who you are, so please, everybody, get those financial disclosures in on time. I'd also like to remind folks that the June commission meeting will be Wednesday, June 12th. The regular meeting falls on holiday, so just remember, folks, Wednesday, June 12th is the full commission meeting for June. And with that, unless there's any other general announcements, let me actually ask, I believe there was somebody from the public who wanted to come and speak. There was a council member from the town of Fairmont Heights, Councilwoman Downing. Ms. Downing, are you on the line?
I'm
I'm sorry, there you are. You were hiding behind Mr. Beckham. If you could come forward, I want to give you the opportunity now to speak, and depending on the topic, council member will have staff respond to it. We may have questions as well.
Wonderful. How's everybody this morning? Good.
Ms. Downey, just for technical issues, hold on one sec just to make sure that folks can see you and hear you. If we could have a technical check to make sure everything's okay. Commissioners, can you see Ms. Downing? Can you hear Ms. Downing?
Hello?
I can hear her, but I cannot see her.
I can't see, but I can hear.
I can hear.
Ms. Downing, you want to come up here so the other commissioners can see you? That's not.
Do I need this?
No, because one of these mics will be live.
All right, I'm gonna sit this down. It's what an honor. Thank you. Can you guys hear me? Testing?
Yes.
Yes.
You're-
Wonderful. I won't take up much of your time this morning. I came because in the town of Fairmont Heights, which is a great historic town, if you haven't been, please stop by and visit with us. We are having a problem in the Fairmont Heights playground, where we have now a series of foxes that are now roaming throughout the town. And we've tried, as a small municipality, we don't have any type of animal control. Unfortunately, when we try and contact the county, they send it back to us. But because their den is located in the park, the park and planning owned park, I decided to reach out to you guys to see what you guys can do to help us out. Because a lot of us have small animals, and because we are on the Washington DC line, it is a challenge with dealing with people coming from the DC side over into our community. But that was pretty much the only reason why I'm coming to reach out. I understand, talking to Representative from Cheverly last night, that they too are seeing an increase in wildlife. And I'm thinking that it's because of a lot of the building that's taking place. But have you guys had this issue before and addressed it in any other town or municipality?
I mean, I think, thank you, by the way, Councilmember, for coming before us, and we're super happy that you came and brought this issue to us. We have staff who can respond specifically to this issue. I would say that yes, throughout the county, Montgomery County, the region, there's wildlife issues all over the place. I mean, I fight the foxes in my backyard because they scare my little dogs. So I certainly hear what you're saying. But I think we have staff who may be able to speak to this at least for a minute right here, right now. And 100% our team will follow up with you afterwards. So I don't know, Ms. Ewing or Ms. Panase, if you have anything that you want to add on the line right now for the council member, or just follow up with her later. What's your call?
Thank you, Chair Shapiro. For the record, this is Sonia Ewing. Thank you for coming out, Councilwoman Downing. Our team is working on this issue. A number of folks have actually started just kind of checking in with others in your area, and we've have lined up to have park rangers come out for a visit. Shuba Panasi from our team, I will ask her to come downstairs and introduce herself to you personally before you leave, and we will follow up with you and other members from the town personally after we have our site visit.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Ewing. And Ms. Downing, I hope that's satisfactory for now. Hang tight, because Ms. Panasi, who's upstairs, will come down and introduce herself. And thank you for bringing this before us.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for your leadership in the community as well. Okay, so we'll move on to action and presentation items. Start with item 4A, resolution 24-08, easement of M-NCPPC property at Peterson LLC at Potomac Waterfront Park in Oxon Hill. Mr. Sun, I believe this is your item. If you could introduce yourself for the record, and the floor is yours. Mr. Sun, do we have you on?
Yeah.
Oh, we can't hear you.
Yes.
Oh, no, we can. No, we can. Go ahead.
Good morning, Chair Shapiro and fellow planning board members. I don't have a presentation other than what's in your packet, but this is an easement grant to the Peterson companies prior to their conveyance of some additional property along the Potomac River waterfront and National Harbor. I'm here available to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sun. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Sun related to this resolution? If not, I would look for a motion.
Move approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Giraldo, a second by Commissioner Bailey. Any discussion on the motion? If not, Mr. Adams, can you call the roll, please?
Chair Shapiro,
Vote aye.
Commissioner Bailey,
Aye.
Commissioner Dorner,
Vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo,
I vote aye.
Commissioner Washington,
Aye.
Vice Chair Harris,
Aye.
Commissioner Bartlett. We got Commissioner Hedrick,
Aye.
Commissioner Linden,
Aye.
circling back around, second call for Commissioner Bartlett.
Aye.
Thank you, 9-0.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Next, we'll move on to item 4B. This is amendments to practice 130, organization and functions of the Office of Secretary, Treasurer, and Department of Finance. Ms. Harvin, Mr. Beckham is going to be giving a presentation on this item. If we can answer any questions that we have, we'll turn it over to you all.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, Commissioners. For the record, Tracy Harmon, the Corporate Policy and Management Operations Director. And I am before you today with our corporate policy and archives chief, Michael Beckham, to seek your approval of some changes to Administrative Practice 130. This practice sets forth the organization and functions of the Office of the Secretary Treasurer and the Department of Finance. And as such, we have worked closely with the Secretary Treasurer staff and as needed with the Office of the General Counsel on these proposed amendments. Mr. Beckham will provide further details.
Thank you, Tracy. It's Michael Beckham, Corporate Policy and Archives Chief for the record. This item is on circle page 21. As Tracy mentioned, the proposal before the commission is to make 2 amendments to Practice 130, which is the organization and functions of the Office of the Secretary Treasurer and Department of Finance. As part of our regular review of policies, we came across 2 provisions that we are asking for the commission to approve changing. The first is to have a change where the Secretary Treasurer will no longer be stated to execute agreements for the commission. This is a function that's performed by the executive director. And so this is, if anything, a cleanup that we need to make so that it's accurate, that the Secretary Treasurer does not execute agreements, but rather the executive director. The second change is to a provision that has the Secretary Treasurer attest to agreements for the commission. This is no longer required in the realm of having electronic signatures. Attestation is no longer performed in the same way that it used to be. So this provision is no longer needed, and we're asking for the commission's approval to remove this. I would ask for the commission's vote, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Beckham. Questions for staff on these items? Anyone? It's pretty straightforward. No questions. I will look for a motion. This is an action item.
Vote
I'll move that we-
approval. Go ahead.
Oh, go
Jay.
ahead, Minnie. I'll just
no,
say
you
I'll
go.
move to approve. I'll move to approve. I don't want to talk over a man with that. I want to know where you got that bow tie, and I need to know, and I love it, and I want one.
I'll second.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Hedrick, a second by Vice Chair Harris. Any discussion on the motion? If not, Mr. Adams, can you call the roll, please?
Chair Shapiro,
Vote aye.
Commissioner Bailey,
But I.
Commissioner Dorner,
Vote aye.
Commissioner Geraldo,
I vote aye.
Commissioner Washington,
I.
Vice Chair Harris,
Aye.
Commissioner Bartley,
Aye.
Commissioner Hedrick,
Aye.
Commissioner Linden,
Aye.
9-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Next item is this is item 4C on our agenda, amendments to practice 2-24 Code of Ethics. Also, Ms. Harvin and Mr. Beckham, take it away.
Thank you. So this item, we are coming before you today to ask you to approve, again, more amendments to Practice 224. As you may be aware, the commission is required to submit our ethical provisions to the State Ethics Commission. And having reviewed our practice, the State Ethics Commission had a few comments. And we are coming before you today to incorporate the comments from the State Ethics Commission. And Mr. Beckham will provide you with the details of these changes.
Thank you, Tracy. So these changes are on circle page 33 of your packet. And the first is to modify the definition of a restricted.
Mike, we lost you.
Yep, thank you. So one more time, the first change is to the definition of a restricted external party. And for background, a restricted external party means an entity that is doing business with the commission, seeking to do business with the commission, or an entity that is regulated by the commission. And when the State Ethics Commission took a look at our Code of Ethics, their recommendation is to modify that definition to capture entities or associations that act on behalf of an association that is engaged only in representing counties or municipal corporations. And in effect, what this would do would be capturing organizations like MACO, Maryland Association of Counties, or MML, Maryland Municipal League. The second change is with regard to our financial disclosure requirements. Every year, identified positions in the agency have to file financial disclosures. And this is a way to make sure that conflicts are not actually created or that there's no appearance of a conflict of interest. And so for those individuals that are required to file a financial disclosure statement, a change is proposed for the contents of that statement. And it would be to have employees disclose relationships with one of three different parts or entities. One would be the University of Maryland Medical System, a second, a governmental entity of the state or local government in the state, and then thirdly, a quasi-governmental entity of the state or local government in the state. And then quasi-governmental entity is defined as an entity that is created by state statute, which performs a public function and that is supported in whole or in part by the state, but is managed privately. And again, this was a recommendation from the State Ethics Commission so that we could capture any types of relationships that employees may have with one of these entities. We ask for the Commission's vote of approval on these changes and are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Beck, and thank you, Mr. Harvin. Commissioners, any questions for staff on this item? Yes, we do, Mr. Bartley.
Yeah, I was wondering why are these rules being implemented, and what's the basis and foundation for these changes? Thanks.
Good question.
I can help you out with that. I think Deborah Boardman, General Counsel for the record. So the commission is required by law to have an ethics code that is at least as restrictive as the state's ethics code. And so once we updated our ethics code and consolidated everything, because we had provisions, practices that were all over the place. So we consolidated. This was an effort that took us a couple of years, frankly. We consolidated that. We brought that to you. I think it was back in November. We got it approved. And we had several discussions about different provisions. We got it approved. And then we had to send it to the State Ethics Board for review. That is also required by law. And then they came back to us with these comments that they wanted us to make a few, in a 33-page document, they had, maybe 3 comments. So that's pretty good. We did a good job. And they just wanted us to shore up these, little points. So that, again, the requirement is that the commission's ethics policies must be at least as restrictive as the state's ethics rules. So that's the bar.
Why are 2 organizations specifically named in the document, like the Maryland Association of Counties? Because I think I've never attended the event, but I think it's curious that that organization was singled out as well as the other organization.
Well, I think the State Ethics Board gets a lot of questions about the, Maryland Association of Counties. It's a big association. They do a lot of work in the state. And, that was their view that this is something that they needed to specify. But this was, their comment. It came from them. It wasn't something that, was something that we dreamt up. But we thought that it was a reasonable thing to do, a reasonable thing to add to our code. We certainly didn't have any questions or concerns about it. The other ethics provisions still apply. So all of those other provisions about exempting, say, when you have dinner, if you're going to have dinner with someone, that's exempt from the rules that say that you have to report that as a gift. All of these things still apply. So this is just in addition to what we already have in our code.
Mr. Bartley, good.
No, I just think it's curious because I've never attended the Maryland Association of Counties event, and to single out that organization when it seems like all the elected officials attend it and commissioners attend it, it like I think it creates a quagmire.
Well, we will have our ethics officer who's going to help people be trained on these new rules, well, updated rules. They're not really new. And we're going to have that ethics officer issue opinions so that we can have a consistent interpretation of them. And so, you know, I think that some of the concerns that have been raised about the rules so far, when you look at how they're actually implemented, the concerns go away. But we're certainly happy to talk to you further about how we see this happening, how we see this rolling out. And if we saw that this was going to be a problem, we would certainly have, you know, additional discussions about it. But we don't actually anticipate any problems with this. The state is, you know, years, decades into doing things this way. And, you know, in terms of working with the state commission, they are extremely, extremely helpful to us. They have come out, they have given us training, they have worked with us on various parts of our, you know, ethics rewrite. And so we don't really anticipate that this is going to be an issue. But if you want additional, you know, information after this goes, we can certainly come back to you and give you, you know, six-month reviews and let you know how this is going, let you know how many, you know, inquiries we're getting, how many, you know, complaints or issues that have been raised. We can certainly come back and take a look at it.
Sure. Good.
Oh, and I'm sorry, there was one other issue. Deputy Director King identified a typo on circle page 40, line 33. The word says statue. It's supposed to be statute. So we'll make that correction.
Thank you for that. Anything else, Commissioner Bartley? And I see Commissioner Hedrick, you have your hand up as well. Mr. Bartley, I don't know if you're on mute, but there we go. Okay, all right, great.
No. I didn't know how to unraise my hand. Thanks.
No worries. Commissioner Hedrick.
Yeah, so I just had a quick clarifying question on the definition for quasi-governmental agency. That would basically apply to things like business improvement districts, place management organizations, that kind of thing. Is that sort of what it's attempting to capture?
Right. It would apply to things like Medco. Medco's a quasi-governmental agency. Yeah, so it would apply to, you know, these sort of hybrid organizations that we often deal with. It would also apply to an economic development corporation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was also thinking something like HOC or like a public housing authority, but they would technically be under both state and federal is my only thing. But okay, that's all I was clarifying, making sure that that's sort of what it's trying to capture. But thanks. That's all I had.
Great, thank you. Any other questions in this item? If not, I would look for a motion.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, I don't think in the amendments we actually called out MACO. Like I know that we have the UMD medical system in there, but it didn't look like MACO was actually specifically mentioned. It just is an example, like in the cover memo for like a quasi governmental entity. Is that right, or did I miss it?
No, I trust Commissioner Governor's read on this stuff. He's good at this.
Yes, we will certainly take another look because if it is not there, then it will be.
Okay, is that consistent with state statutes or the state ethics guidelines, or are the state guidelines just saying quasi governmental entity and not naming them?
Well, it was the state who requested that language.
Yeah, MACO was actually called out with regards to the gifts section, not the quasi-governmental.
It's a gift.
Yeah, that's where they call out MACO and MML. It's actually, if they can put it back on the screen, it was under proposed change number 1.
Yeah, because I didn't actually see it in the backup.
It's not in
of it.
it's not in the quasi-governmental
Yeah,
section.
but even in the gift section, there's an insertion in the gift section, but it's not actually, at least what I saw, it didn't name Mako specifically. So I just want to make sure that if we are naming it, that I'm just clear on where we're naming it, and then just trying to figure out like I understand that the Ethics Commission wanted us to put in stuff, but I want to also make sure that actually in the state statute it says Mako, because if it doesn't, like we don't need to put it in there. Like we can just put in the quasi-judicial or the quasi-governmental entity. We don't need to actually name something. And it's sufficient in my mind with the memo in terms of describing who those would be. And we've also heard others that have been named out there.
Well, we can double check that information. Again, we didn't really have a conversation with them about these amendments. We just sort of had an exchange of emails. But we can ask them where they got that from and why, it's important to them to name Mako and MML in terms of gifts. We have a lot of interaction with Mako, less interaction with MML. But we don't have that kind of interaction. I mean, the idea that Mako would be giving our people gifts is a little odd because in my experience, that doesn't happen. What happens is we partner with Mako on things. We work with them on legislative items. We work with them on various things. We might, and we are, for instance, this summer at the Mako conference, we're going to purchase a booth and have an exhibit. But they're not going to give that to us for free. They don't do that. Mm-hmm. So I'm not quite sure why, this is on their radar at the State Ethics Commission. But it's really not something that comes up for us. Mako's not in the business of giving us gifts, as far as I know. And so if it did come up, it would be extremely unusual. And I can't really think of a time when in the past 12 years it's actually come up. So we can, go back and check with them to see why it is they thought this was important. But in the scheme of things, it doesn't really impact us because this is not happening.
Yeah, but regardless, I don't really care about putting it in there then. If it's not required by statute, by state statute, I don't want to see it in there. So we can define the quasi-governmental entity or things that are required by state statute, and we can provide procedural guidance from our local ethics officer that we have, but we don't need to be putting our policies in that would be so specific for these kinds of instances if it's not required.
So on that, I will follow up as Deborah's saying. This is Wes Ant and Deputy General Counsel for the record. I will follow up with them, but I will say that they did. They, being the State Ethics Commission, did reach out to me this past week to see if these updates had been made. I told them that this was coming before the commission today, but I'm only bringing that up because they are anticipating it. So there's a reason that they added Mako specifically. While I didn't truly, like Deborah said, I didn't have a conversation with them, they're expecting it. And so since the state is expecting it, and this was only one of a few comments, I think it would likely be in our best interest to make the addition. But again, I will do my due diligence, like Deborah said, and I'll follow up with them and give you an adequate answer. But I don't know that I don't know that it's going to be so problematic that it should stall the process. So I'll stop there.
One possible reason why it would be included under gifts might be that if Mako were giving covered officials complimentary registrations or other things of the like, which would then be misconstrued as a gift. And given the elected officials, commissioners, so many covered officials do attend Mako events, that may be what they're trying to get at.
Yeah, and if they pass that in state legislation, then I'm fine with doing that. But if they haven't, I don't have any interest in actually naming that one entity. And we've got something in there about associations engaged only representing counties or municipal corporations. If that's consistent with the state law,
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that could probably be some rationale with regards to them being explicit about it. So.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean,
And
we
that's
have
very
that on the federal
common.
side as
So-
well, where we're not supposed to accept registrations unless we're a speaker, and then we can get ethics exceptions for that. But we also don't name specific entities as that would be prohibited. So
in general, I agree with Commissioner Dorner, but in order to move this forward, can we have something like staff will check back? And if the state specifically said they wanted Mako in here, it's in it, it's in. If they didn't specifically, then we won't use say Mako, it'd just be general. Is that, would staff be okay with that?
Yeah, you could have a motion that gives staff the authority to, depending on what the State Ethics Commission says to us, make either choice. That would be fine.
That's acceptable to me.
I wouldn't say what they say we should do, because I could care less what they say if it's not in statute.
Well, yes, but if they say that it's based on a reading of a statute or a case that talked about this issue, that connected it with language in a statute. In other words, you know, I have fairly strong faith that the State Ethics Commission didn't just pull this out of the air. There is a reason that they want us to put in this language. So assuming the reason is valid, that we would go ahead and use the language. If the reason is just, you know, it doesn't seem valid, it doesn't seem connected to a statutory requirement, then we would do as you asked.
So I would say I'm just going to vote no against this. And so unless you want to table it and come back next time and actually show it, I think there's just too much of a disagreement in terms of like what we want. I'm not interested in what the state regulatory body says unless it's in statute. If it says it's in statute, that's fine. If they're giving us guidance based upon like legislative outcomes or appeals or hearings and stuff, that's also fine. That can be our interpretation procedurally, but it doesn't need to be in a policy calling out a single entity just because they say, hey, we've had a few cases about this that have never occurred with the commission and we've never had this issue. Then I said, okay, thanks. Good info to have. We'll put a policy in there that's consistent with the actual state statute. But just because one person on some regulatory body decides, hey, you should put in this name, I don't really care. If it's in statute, fine. But if it's not, no.
All right, thank you. Hear you loud and clear. You're good?
Yeah, good. And one last quick thing, is it, just so I clarification, is it, I know they're reviewing everyone's ethics and policies and saying, is it anyone else's ethics policy that this says calls out Mako?
We can check. I don't know that off the top of my head, but the State Ethics Board does review everyone else's ethics policies as well, not just ours.
And commissioners, I'm comfortable and with the vice chair as well, with authorizing staff to get this additional bit of information before, as part of the motion. And I understand that not all commissioners are going to be in agreement with that, but I do think it's important to move forward on this issue. So with that, is there any further discussion?
Commissioner Geraldo has his hand.
I just had a question. Can we find out what the rationale is first before we have to vote on it? Or is that going to be part of the motion?
I'm sorry, hold on. That's what Vice Chair Harris was suggesting. Commissioner and I agree with that, which is
okay.
We authorize staff to get the rationale, and if it's in line with, in short, if they're comfortable with it and it's in line with what.
Hello. What happened?
We just lost HQ sound. At least I did.
Mako didn't.
You hear me now?
We got you back.
You got me now? All right. So short of it is Commissioner Geraldo, I think we're in line with what you're saying. That's what staff is being authorized to do.
Thank you.
Why don't we just table this and wait for it to come back next month, and then we can vote on it. And if it's in statute and it's that way, like I'll vote in favor for it.
Because I think it's more important that we take action today. And if you feel like you can't vote for it, then you can't vote for it.
Okay.
Any further discussion? If not, I would look for a motion on this item.
I so move.
Got a motion by
And
Vice Chair Harris.
And I will second and ask the motioner to be specific in that we are approving the amendments to practice 2-24 in addition to authorizing staff to obtain additional information with regards to the discussion just held.
Agreed. So moved.
We've got a motion by Vice Chair Harris, a second by Commissioner Washington. Any discussion on the motion? If not, Mr. Anderson, call the roll.
Chair Shapiro.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Bailey.
But aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
No.
Commissioner Geraldo.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Washington.
Vote aye.
Vice Chair Harris.
Aye.
Commissioner Bartlett.
No.
Commissioner Hedrick.
Aye.
Commissioner Linden.
Aye.
7 in favor, 2 opposed, 1 absent. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Much appreciated. So let's move on to item 4D on our agenda. I don't know, Mr. Shelley, if this is just for our, if it's not an action item, but is this for our information, or is there a presentation as well?
It depends on the commission's appetite. Good morning, sir. I prepared some slides to share with you. If you are interested, I'd be more than happy to present.
I would prefer that you do present. This discussion came up on the Montgomery board side, and so to learn more about this program, so I would appreciate you presenting. Go for it.
Thank you. All right. Good morning. Mazen Shilay, the Chief Information Officer for the Commission, for the record. I'm going to give you a quick brief on what I've done last January when I presented in front of you for the fourth quarter of 2023. So in January, I gave you a brief background on the ERP project. I also covered the project's 3-phase approach to the requirement gathering, to RFP, to the actual award of the contract and the project. I also shared the SharePoint site where we have all the relevant documents to the project and all the artifacts related to the project, which provides an easy resource, one-stop shop for folks to get information on the project progress or history at any given time throughout the life cycle of the project. I also shared the project progress. At that point in time, we had the requirement gathering process was about to launch on January 3rd. We also had the ERP 101, which is an educational and awareness program that was scheduled for January 5th as well. Those events took place. Then I presented the next steps again back in January. We talked about mega processes and how the mega process and the development of the workshop that will help develop a framework for the requirements gathering session that would follow. We had also key stakeholder interviews to feed directly into that requirements workshop that was conducted between January 4th and the 31st of that month. Then those stakeholders were interviewed again. There were about 24, I believe the number was then. Then the mega process alignment workshop that took place between February 1st and February 16th, not the 1st, the 12th to the 16th. I'm sorry about the typo. It was 1 week, 4 to 5 days between the 12th and 16th. I apologize about that. So just to kind of give you a quick highlight on what the mega process is, if I may. So a mega process is really the highest level process in an organization, that a process that stands alone, meaning it does not have too many integrations with other mega processes, financial, procurement, accounts payable, hire to retire, those types of functions. We identified 5 mega processes and one non-functional mega process, which is technology. So the requirements gathering session was planned for the week of March 18th. However, we changed that launch date to April 16th. We did that for a couple of reasons, but mainly was to provide ample time for the department's participants. We gave them a 3 to 4 week advance notice to be able to free their schedules and be more dedicated to participate in the requirements gathering, because this is the opportunity for the departments and all the stakeholders to share and be, available and share their pain points and their requirements for what they want the next solution to look like. So we made sure we gave everybody enough time to free themselves up so they can participate effectively. I also, let me see why I'm not stepping through, sorry. Now, on the timeline, I also talked about the timeline in the project. Of course, this needle here moves right now we're in the middle of April. The timeline is still, although we did change the requirements gathering sessions, but we're still within our planned timeline. We're still looking at, right now we're doing things concurrently. We're working on the requirements while procurement is working on their parts of the RFP document that will be released with the target date of early August. The highlighted section in the middle is the illicit. So we're basically in phase 2. Again, requirements, RFP preparation, and the release of the RFP. More to come on that in the other slides in a little bit. The next slide. So we're in phase 2. The timeline for phase 2. On March 18th, we developed and presented a requirements gathering 101 session, as we call it. Basically, we worked with a consultant to develop actually a 40-minute session that help those who are going to take part of the workshop for the requirements gathering to understand what's expected of them, provide some definitions, and give them a lot of information to help them become prepared and be prepared when they come to the requirements gathering sessions, so to be very effective and ready to answer and participate. And that went over very well. We had over 140 attended. It was a pretty good, preparation session. Now, on April 16th to May 9th is our requirements gathering session. So we started this week. We already started yesterday, as a matter of fact. Again, the 6 different mega processes are record to report, which is a financial exercise. Forecast to budget, it's a budgeting mega process. Procure to pay, procurement. Hire to retire, it's a human resources function. Acquire to dispose, which is asset and warehousing management. And the last one is a non-functional, but it's very significant in this time and age, which is the technology and integration non-functional mega process. So that's all 6. We started this week. We'll conclude by May 9th. The participation and level of engagement that I've seen in the sessions yesterday, 2 sessions yesterday and 1 this morning that was still going on right now, it's been extremely positive. The participants have come prepared, fully dedicated, and very engaged in their providing of their experiences, pain points, and their understanding of what the next ERP is going to look like for them. So it's been really engaged, and I felt like there's enough time, ample time given to participants to voice their opinions and share anything that they wanted to in this requirement gathering session. It's been really exciting from my take on that. Let's see what's next on my slides. Next steps. There we go. Okay, also, so once the requirements gathering is completed, we'll be looking at a report. The report we're going to have 1 report per mega process, so we'll be looking at 6 reports. And in those documents, those are the requirements documents that will come out of those sessions that we're holding for each mega process. We will have at least 2 rounds of reviews from the participants.
Maz?
Yes, sir.
Hold on 1 second. Keep going. We lost you, but only for a second. Keep going.
Okay. So again, after each mega process is completed, there will be a report. So we're looking at 6 reports that will be provided about a week after we finish the last session. The commission has to sign off on the report before we proceed with taking those requirements and putting them into our RFP, right? So this is really significant. The stakeholders who are participating in the mega processes will be part of that review process before we sign off and give them back. So we're looking at least a minimum of 2 rounds of reviews before we say as a commission, yes, we're good. You captured everything we wanted. Now we can put that in the RFP and go on to the next step. Then after that, basically our next steps is really the, again, once we conclude the requirements, we get the report, we review the report, we approve it, and then that get moved to the RFP, part of the RFP document. This slide here I just added for the definitions if needed. I will be sharing those slides with Jim, who can distribute that after the meeting. By the way, the report in the packet pretty much has everything that I talked about today. I may have added some more details just to help complete the picture for you. And I've just made it a good practice to add those links in all my documents, just to make it easy for folks to go to some of those locations and look at information when needed. It's a handy little, set of links that will give you the ability to go look things up when you need to. That pretty much concludes my presentation, and I'll take questions if there are any.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. Questions?
No questions, but thank you for your presentation. But I did want to comment. One question: could you just speak to the folks that participated in these, these round tables or these discussions for each of the? You said the major project reports. I mean, is it CESN plus the divisions for both counties on parks and planning? Can you just give a general range of folks that participated in those work sessions?
Sure. During the strategic alignment workshop that happened in January, we have invited over 120, maybe 140 invitees to come in and attend the workshops. That workshop was done in person for a week. So we opened it up also to have it in a mixed environment. So we had a Teams link available as well to increase the participation and make it easy for folks to attend and listen in at a minimum. But all the key stakeholders were encouraged to come in person, and they did. So we had a very involved, very engaging week of the workshop. So that was the strategic alignment. So after the strategic alignment workshop, we had a report that we had some comments and feedback on that report. When the report was finalized, I asked the sponsors to approve, and I also asked the steering committee to approve as well. And that really serves as the format, the platform for our requirements gathering sessions. That again, they're ongoing now. But leading up to those sessions, we held an ERP requirements 101 session. We invited well over 160 people to that, and the attendance was over 100. Again, very engaged folks. We recorded the session. Now it's available for anyone who was added to the project later on to go review that session to understand what's expected of them. And sure enough, we have about 30% more participants added to the requirements gathering sessions that are ongoing today. For each of the 6 mega processes, we have up to 50 participants have been invited to those sessions as they have been identified by the department representatives. And the way we've done the vetting, if you want to call it vetting or selection of folks, is that we worked with the steering committee members who are parts of each department to make sure the names that we have are complete. And if they're not, we had names added by the representatives. So that's why the numbers increased. So we have about 30% more people participating this week, which is great. It's just those folks had to kind of read up and get ready for the work for the requirement session or sessions. So again, each session has about 50 or so people with very well balanced representation from all departments across the commission.
Thank you so much. I'm glad we got broad representation and people are engaged. So thank you.
Certainly, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions for Mr. Shillay on this? It's not an action item again. Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, well, next, move on to our officers' reports. The executive director's report is for information only. We have no secretary treasurer report, and we have a general counsel report. We have our annual legislative report, which we are excited to hear about. It was a very successful year. And let's turn it over to Ms. Borden for that report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, for the record, Deborah Borden, General Counsel. We did have a very active legislative session. You have hopefully at your fingertips the legislative report for 2024. This is a report of our activities during the legislative session in Annapolis that just concluded a couple of weeks ago. This was a very busy session for us. We tracked over 100 bills. And when I say we, that would be Jordan Balcom Colbert and I. Jordan did an amazing job, let me say. She coordinated our response to a number of bills. While we tracked over 100, we really were focused on about 20 to 25 bills. We prepared position statements and then sometimes had to re-prepare and prepare again in order to reference and answer questions that came up during the process of the bills going to subcommittee and then committee and then talking to members of the delegation. So one position statement may have ended up turning into, when we had a lot of amendments, 5 different versions of that position statement. And so it was Jordan's job to keep up with all of those amendments and to keep up with all of the different arguments that folks were making. So we had a number of very hot legislative items this year. We had a number of items that came out of the development review process work group that was headed up by Delegate Lopez last summer. That work group was staffed by the Montgomery Planning Department. They spent a lot of time on the work group's work product and getting to the 22 recommendations that the work group came up with, which then were turned into several legislative bills. And so we worked with Delegate Lopez to try to get her bills through, to try to get them passed, and to answer questions and to lobby in favor of those bills. So that was a big chunk of bills that we worked on with the Montgomery Planning. We had some great successes, and some of those successes were getting bills that we liked passed, and getting certain bills amended to our liking, because we had some bills that were we thought included problematic language. So we were very successful in getting our language into certain bills, like the Forest Conservation Bill. As you recall, the Forest Conservation Act at the state level, we were very involved in that. We worked with MACO, we worked with other counties, and we were instrumental in getting the kind of language that we needed in order to protect our forest banking programs in both the Prince George's and Montgomery counties. And so this year, we had dealt with a bill that proposed to push out the effective date of the Forest Conservation Act amendments that we did last year. We had this conversation that we thought it was going to take the counties more time than they were giving us.
Uh-oh.
We wanted to make sure that that additional time did not push out the effective date of our forest mitigation banking program. So we had to first explain that to the delegation members, which can be difficult because forest conservation, the details of it are a little complex, a little dense. And then we had to make sure that the language that we needed to protect our banking process that language actually made it into the bill. So that was tough. It happened right at the end of session, and we really had to push to make sure that that language got in there, and it did. Another major push for us this year was affordable housing. That was the governor's, big issue this year. He wanted to do something on affordable housing. He had a number of bills that were proposed. Some of the bills had significant local zoning impact. It was the state government coming into the local zoning area and really trying to legislate that on a state level. That is difficult because every single one of our counties and even our municipalities have their own zoning authority. They have zoning ordinances and processes that look very different county to county. And the reason they look different is because the counties are different. We have different urbanization, we have different rural areas, we have different topography and different issues with, lots of trees, too many trees, not enough trees, etc. We all have different issues, and that's why our zoning is very different from county to county. And so when you try to do something by the state, at the state level, it's complicated and it's difficult. And we saw that, because we worked really from the beginning, from before the session even started. We worked on the affordable housing bills that had to do with zoning, because we knew that if something got passed that was problematic for our counties, that we would be in trouble. We would have to really have, we would really have difficulty reconciling our own needs and our own ordinances with the state's mandates. So we worked on that very tirelessly. The two planning departments worked together, and we did get some amendments, and the finished bill looks very dissimilar, shall we say, from the original bill, which is good. That was a win for us, definitely. Other wins for us, there were a number of bills in Prince George's County. There were local bills that we thought were fairly harmful to the county. One of them was called zoning fairness, and it basically took all of the authority from the planning board and gave it to the district council. Obviously, we thought that was a bad idea. So that bill did eventually get a vote in the delegation subcommittee, and they voted it down. So that was a big win for us as well. See, anything else? Oh, the People's Council bill. Yes, the People's Council bill, we spent a lot of time on. This bill arose out of the development review work session, the study group that was done by Delegate Lopez. But the recommendation was not to move forward with a People's Zoning Council at the state level. The recommendation, from the group was voted down. But instead of taking that recommendation, the senator whose bill, was the catalyst for the work group, he introduced a bill anyway at the state level to try to establish a People's Council for Montgomery County. Just the background is Montgomery County has a People's Council position that they have not funded for the past 10 or so years because the county council has disagreed on what the position should be, what the position should do, and what the scope of the position should look like. And so they have not funded the position. The county exec wanted the position funded, and so there was a disagreement, and there was a stalemate. So we worked on that because the state bill required, or would have required, Park and Planning to pay for the position. Paying for the position was never a problem. It was always about defining the position. That was the issue. And so we worked really, really hard to make sure that everyone understood that the issue was defining the position. It wasn't about who would pay for it and whether Montgomery County had the money to pay for it or not, because of course they had the money to pay for it. They just couldn't agree on what the position should look like. So that bill actually died in committee. And but we are watching that issue very closely because we know that these bills can come back next year. And so we're going to be watching that closely and hopefully encouraging the county council in Montgomery County to work this out, work out a compromise on this position and get it back and get it funded. So I am happy to answer any questions. I will specifically give the last bit of information about the LBIs and the grants. So this year, LBIs are bond initiatives. We used to call them bond bills. And the governor's budget also includes discretionary grants that they will grant to different government agencies as well as counties. So this year, between LBIs and grant funding, Prince George's Park received $4.7 million. That is really great for a lean year. This was a lean year. We were warned that this was going to be lean, that we weren't going to get all that we wanted. And yet Prince George's Parks did very, very well, $4.7 million. Montgomery Parks did okay. They didn't get nothing. They got 1.2 million, but we are going to work with Montgomery Parks next year to try to make sure that they get the attention that they need to get. We have this system now, Jordan and I, where when we go and talk to legislators about other bills, policy bills, we also mention our LBI projects, our grants that we're looking for. We always mention that, even if it's not their district, even if it's not something that they're, even if they're not on the appropriations committee, we mention it because we want them to know what our projects are. We want them to get excited about working with park and planning. And that seems to have really made a difference for Prince George's this year. So we're going to be working, on that and making sure that our process, fits whatever, or however each department wants to work. But we think that was a really great result, and we like to think that it was, a result of a lot of hard work. So thank you to Jordan. I see she's on. We had a party for her yesterday. We want to say again, thank you. She worked very, very hard, and she's due to welcome a new baby to her family in about a month, a little less than a month. So we are very happy that, we got all that work out of her under the wire. So I look out there and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. I really think that our process worked well this year. If you have any suggestions for what we can do better, please let me know. We did hear your suggestions last year from about the report, and we tried to make the report much more succinct and much more user-friendly. So any suggestions you might have, we're happy to hear them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Borden. And it was such a successful year that it wasn't just luck. It was through all sorts of hard work, and really, really appreciate the effort that you all put in, but also the new approach that we're taking. It's certainly a one commission approach where all the operating departments, as well as the Office of General Counsel and commissioners, there's so many people involved, and I think that's one of the reasons why we were so successful. So thank you for all that. So commissioners, questions for our General Counsel?
I have no questions, Mr. Chairman, but I did want to, and it's so appropriate that the General Counsel ended with the report. I just wanted to state that the written report was a slam dunk. It was very readable, engaging. So I certainly thank you for taking our suggestions into consideration. Jordan, congratulations to you. We will be thinking about you over the next coming days. And it was terribly exciting to hear about all of the new processes and protocols that you all have implemented this year. So job well done, team, and congratulations.
I just wanted to say thank you all to the board for your support and the different departments that we worked with this session. As always, I have a ball each session getting out there in Annapolis and working on behalf of you. So again, thank you for the honor to represent you well in Annapolis. I will see you next year.
Thank you. Good health to you and to the new coming baby. And yeah, we'll see you. We'll see you through this process next year.
All
All right. So if there's no further questions, we'll move on. We are.
Hedrick. Commissioner Hedrick.
Oh, Commissioner Hedrick, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand up.
Oh, I just echo everything Commissioner Washington said, and congratulations to Jordan as well. It was a good. It looked like it was a really good session. Like it looked like it went really well, and I know there was a lot of not only yes, we want this, but also no, we don't want that, and those are tight ropes to walk. And I think that was, I think it was really well done. And I also sort of leaning into the LOI, the bond initiative, or the LBI, the bond initiatives. I think is a good idea for funding some of these like sort of small to mid-range projects like across the commission. I have some experience with it over at RHE, and we've used it recently in the past couple of years to fund sort of community center upgrades and things like that. And it's I'm glad to hear that we're using that and trying to lean into that more. That's a useful way to get funds for different projects. So congratulations all around. Thanks so much, and really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Well said. And yes, we played our defense was as good as our offense, and that was helpful. So, Commissioner Linden.
Yeah, first, just Jordan, congrats as well. I hope everything goes smoothly in the coming days and weeks. And I just also wanted to share my congratulations to the team. Similarly, very difficult, complicated session for sure. And to Deborah or any others who have insight on this, I was wondering which of the bills that didn't make it across the finish line, whether we supported them or didn't. You know, we talked about the People's Council, but which of any of those do we expect to come back around next year or maybe in future years, if there's kind of ongoing momentum to try to get some version of them going?
I certainly expect the People's Council bill to come back if the Montgomery County Council does not act to put that position back on track, or to fund that position. I think that we, in our discussions with the state delegation, they made it very clear that they want to see this position funded in Montgomery County. Some of them wanted to give the county council the opportunity to come to a consensus about how the position should be described and what they wanted the position to do. So I do think that is going to come back unless the county council acts. The zoning and fairness bill on the Prince George's side, that may come back. And it may morph into some other format or use other language. I do believe that our response is probably going to be the same, regardless of what language is used. The basic premise behind that bill is just something that's fundamentally, I think, not consistent with good government. The other bills that might come back, there may be additional attempts at the state level to tackle affordable housing. I think that a number of people were suggesting that this was the first shot across the bow on that issue from a state perspective, that they were going to look to see what worked and then come back at it again. So it wouldn't surprise me if we had another big push by, if not the governor, then some of the delegation members who were very much in favor of, doing something on affordable housing. Delegate Moon comes to mind, for instance. I don't know. What else do you think? Jordan, do you think anything else is coming back?
I believe Delegate Alston will bring back a few of her land use bills to next session since they didn't pass. I believe that's a possibility.
Right, she had a bill that talked about, oh gosh, community
Planning
benefit.
Board Authority.
Well, yeah, that's what I talked about earlier, but she also had a bill that talked about community benefits agreements and tying them somehow to community, I guess whether the community agrees with the project. So if the community didn't agree with the project or didn't support the project, then a community benefits agreement would kick in. I don't think that bill went anywhere, but it may come back next year. Again, we foresee a number of problems with that bill. The other bill on the Prince George's side that may come back is the municipal zoning. That is an issue that's just never going to go away. There are some municipalities, some large municipalities in Prince George's County that really, really want their own zoning authority. And they've been trying for years, decades, and that issue is not going to go away.
Yes, so Commissioner Linden, your question brought up something that we've been talking about internally. One is that how are we proactive in getting some of the things we want approved at the state level? And so now we have 3-4 months to sort of come through what is our strategy, what do we want, and then start working with the delegates and the senators on getting them hopefully bought in on some of the things we want. And I like this new system that we have. I mean, we're all involved because we all see our delegates from time to time. And so we have our strategy. Then as we talk to them over the next 4 months, we're on the lead versus once the legislative session starts being a little bit more on default. So I thought it all went well, and it's a learning experience for new board members, new directors on both the Prince George's and the Montgomery County side. So I think we've got it now, and we'll be even better next year. Thank you.
And I'll just mention, we are scheduling debrief meetings with each of the departments. So we will be talking about, great things that happened this year, what we can do better for next year, and then strategizing for what we're going to do over the summer and the fall to get ready for next year, because it just never really stops.
I will say the renaming of the Confederate Streets bill got some win in the House. They decided to do like a state commission on that, and then it got amended. But when it got to the Senate side, it didn't get the support it needed. So that's another bill that could come back next year if they get it right. So just flagging that for you as well.
Thank you for that. All right, there's no further discussion on this item. Thank you all very much. Thanks for the good work and thanks for the presentation today. Commissioners, I'm going to ask that we take a 2-minute break. So we will be right back. Thank you.
Break.
give a sec folks for commissioners especially gather. We're just working on some logistical issues. So we are going to go into executive session. Let me read the statement pursuant to the Maryland General Provisions article of the M-NCPPC Code of Maryland, Section 3-305B9. A closed session is proposed to consider matters related to collective bargaining negotiations with the municipal and county government employees organization and the Fraternal Order of Police bargaining units to preserve the commission's negotiating position. So that's the statement. I would look for a motion to go into closed session.
So move.
Seconded.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Giraldo, a second by Commissioner Hendrick. If there's no discussion on the motion, Mr. Adams, can you call the roll, please?
Chair Shapiro,
Vote aye.
Commissioner Bailey,
Vote aye. Yeah.
okay.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Dorner,
Vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo,
I vote aye.
Commissioner Washington.
I think she's already there in closed session.
Yeah, I think so. Vice Chair Harris.
Aye.
Commissioner Bartley.
Aye.
Commissioner Hedrick.
Aye.
Commissioner Linden.
Aye.
That's 8-0. Motion passes.
Thank you. We'll go into closed session. We will come back into open session simply to ratify the discussion that we had in closed session and to close out the meeting. I imagine that closed session will take about 15 minutes.
Yes, most.
The most 15 minutes. Okay, thanks everyone. See you in closed session. session. We have a quorum. We were in closed session to discuss matters related to collective bargaining negotiations. We were updated by staff on that. There was no action taken. And with that, commissioners, there's no further business before us in open session. Without objection, we are adjourned. And I want to thank everybody for your time today.
Everybody have a good one. Bye.
Thanks.